So here I am as usual catching up with your comments on the Kermode Uncut site. Two subjects dominating. One of them, Jennifer Aniston. We'll come back to that for the last time. First, I did a post last week about how I had to go and see The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus twice, because the first time I didn't really felt that I got it. I went to see it a second time, and second time around it looked like a different film. It didn't solve all the problems for me, but I thought it was a different experience. There was things in it that I was able to relax into much more the second time, and I was asking whether you could let me know films that you think had to be seen more than once, and an astonishing response, I have to say. Interestingly enough, the works of David Lynch, Stanley Kubrick, Terry Gilliam kept coming up time and time again. And I think it's a fairly simple answer to that. It's not that if you see their films first time around you might dislike them, although you might perhaps take against some of them. It's generally because with those directors there is so much going on in each individual scene, each individual frame, that you feel you have to watch the movie time and again to get it. I mean, I've said many times, the first time I saw Blue Velvet, I really hated it. I stormed out of it. Second time around I saw it, I thought it was a masterpiece. Many of you were writing in to say that what you thought was you hadn't really fully appreciated what was going on in the work of those directors until second or third time round. I think that's very common. This, though, I have to say, gave me particular pleasure. This was from Savvy Film. You remember I was talking about a film called Helen that came out this year, and I think is going to be in my list of top 10 films of the year, to be honest. And I mentioned it when it came out in the cinema and when it came out on video. Savvy Film didn't like it first time round, but after my recent post, he's fessed up, maybe she has fessed up to changing their mind about Helen. The first time I watched it, as you may remember, I absolutely hated the film, didn't get it, thought it to be a pretentious piece of art house crap. I do remember that very well. Then recently I saw it again, and something in me stirred. I wouldn't say it was one of the best films of the year, I'll give it a third go, but there is certainly something about it that has stayed with me, and that gave me a real thrill. But the film which really dominated, the film which kept coming up time and again, was Blade Runner. This is typical from Charlie Gordon. I have to agree with many on this board about Blade Runner. It must have taken me at least 3 or 4 times before I actually watched it all the way through without giving up. Then I got given the old video game of it for the PC and absolutely loved it, so I went back and watched the movie again, and this time I finally got it, and it's now a firm favourite. I had a little extra bonus last time because I had learnt passable Japanese in the meantime and could understand what the chef was saying at the beginning. So it's an interesting thing with Blade Runner, and I made a documentary about Blade Runner for Channel 4 back in the 90s. The thing about Blade Runner is it exists in so many different versions that perhaps if people saw it the first time round in the improper version with the narrative voiceover, which doesn't make much sense, you could understand why it was that they didn't get it. Funnily enough, there are some people nowadays who still think that the first version of Blade Runner, the version that explained everything, I am Deckard and I am an android hunter, is in fact the best version, because they hold that without that version, the other versions wouldn't make any sense. But of all of the films that you talked about, Blade Runner was the one that kept coming up. This, however, I just want to mention in passing, from N. Boonin. I've seen Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, 37 times now, and it just keeps getting better. On a somewhat less cerebral note, the Jennifer Aniston and the problem of her face debate has continued to rage on. I think in the interest of balance I should read this. This is from Nora Hollywood. We obsess about the quality of Jennifer Aniston's movies because she's one of the highest profile stars in Hollywood, forever on the grocery store magazine covers. I bet you she could have done, say, You Can Count on Me, and if she had, she would have been considered for an Oscar. Movie roles of that quality just hardly ever come along, though. Ask any great actress, including Laura Linney, and they'll tell you the same. So, a spirited defence of Jennifer Aniston there. This, however, the final comment from Lou Speak, L-U-H Speak. Don't know how to pronounce it, but I agree with the sentiment. Can we just let this topic die? She's such a pathetically easy target.